Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Keir. Coming up in the next 1 hour. US Senate fails again to pass funding bill. White House warns mass layoff. Trump says happy to work with Democrats on healthcare if shutdown ends. Macron's fifth prime minister quits hours after naming cabinet. Opposition demands president's resignation or snap polls. Macron gives Le Corneau till Wednesday for talks. First day of indirect talks between Israel and Hamas over Trump's 20-point plan end in Egypt. Next round on Tuesday, marking 2 years since Hamas's attack. Sixth edition of Global Fintech Fest to begin in Mumbai. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and UK Prime Minister Starmer to address on October 9th. The US Senate has once again failed to pass a spending budget, making it the fifth such time that would continue to keep the government in a state of shutdown. Both Democratic and Republican funding proposals failed to pass in the Senate on Monday, unable to reach the 60-vote threshold needed for approval. A Republican bill gathered 52 affirmative votes and 42 nays. Previously, the Democratic-led bill had 45 affirmative votes and 50 negatives. 3/5 of the Senate was needed to approve the motions put forth. US President Donald Trump said that he would be open to making a deal on the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. Trump said he was happy to work with Democrats on healthcare policy, but the shutdown must end first.
We have a negotiation going on right now with the Democrats that could lead to very good things. And I'm talking about good things with regard to health care. Well, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. But we are speaking with the Democrats, and some very good things could happen with respect to health care. I'd like to see a deal made for great health care. Yeah, I want to see great health. I'm a Republican, but I want to see health care much more so than the Democrats.
Trump had warned earlier that another stalemate could result in significant job losses. The White House on Monday backed off Trump's assertion that US government employees were being laid off right now due to the shutdown, but warned that job losses could result if Congress does not restore federal funding. US President Donald Trump has formally authorized the deployment of 300 members of the Illinois National Guard to Chicago for 60 days. Now, according to a presidential memorandum released on Monday, the deployment of 300 members of the Illinois National Guard aims to protect the federal personnel and property in Illinois. In the memo, Trump said that the regular forces of the US are not sufficient to ensure the laws are faithfully executed, including in Chicago. According to the order, the National Guard will be activated for 60 days unless extended for or withdrawn earlier at the discretion of the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. This is despite Illinois and Chicago filing a lawsuit aiming to stop Trump administration from sending hundreds of National Guard troops to Chicago. People in Chicago are torn over the ongoing U.S. immigration and customs enforcement raids happening in and around Chicago, as well as President Trump's plans to deploy the National Guard. Illinois launched a legal challenge on Monday to block Trump from deploying hundreds of federalized National Guard troops into the streets of Chicago. Chicago filed the lawsuit hours after a federal judge in Oregon on Sunday temporarily blocked Trump's administration from sending any National Guard troops to police Portland, Oregon. Chicago's lawsuit opens new tab, and it is the fourth legal action targeting Trump's unprecedented use of soldiers to police U.S. cities, suppress protests, and bolster domestic immigration enforcement. Courts have not yet reached a final decision in any of those cases, but judges in California and Oregon have made initial rulings that Trump likely overstepped his authority. The White House said that it will appeal against a recent court decision that challenges the federal government's deployment of National Guard troops to Portland, Oregon.
The president wants to ensure that our federal buildings and our assets are protected. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. And ultimately, in the case in Los Angeles, that judge ruled in the Ninth Circuit, that panel of judges ruled that those troops could remain and that the president was well within his authority to do so. So we are appealing that decision. As you know, we expect a hearing on it pretty quickly. And we're very confident in the president's legal authority to do this. And we're very confident we will win on the merits of the law.
French President Emmanuel Macron on Monday gave his outgoing Prime Minister time until Wednesday to hold last-ditch talks with other political parties to try to chart a path out of the crisis. Sébastien Lecornu's shockingly stepped down on Monday, just 14 hours after naming his government lineup. The resignation made him the third French Prime Minister to leave office since last December and fifth one in 2 years to announce resignation. It was not immediately clear what Lecornu's task would entail. France's constitution allows Macron to reappoint Lecornu as Prime Minister should he wish. Macron gave Lecornu time until Wednesday to hold meetings with political parties to try to chart a path out of the crisis. If Lecornu's bid to achieve stability by Wednesday fails, Macron has three options. He can appoint another Prime Minister, he can once again dissolve the National Assembly, or he can resign himself. Lecornu's ministerial lineup has been fiercely criticized across the board by parties in the National Assembly, which threatened to vote it down. The nomination of former Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire as Minister of the Armed Forces in particular seemed to be a sticking point for many political factions. For now, far-right and hard-left parties are urging Macron to call new snap parliamentary elections or quit. All right, our correspondent Akshay Dongre joins us from Delhi to help us understand the situation in France better. Akshay, good morning. Now, we told our viewers about the crisis, the political crisis in France. Lecornu is the third Prime Minister since December to resign. Tell us, how grave is the situation this time around?
Well, in fact, the fifth Prime Minister in 2 years, Preeti, and the situation seems to be worsening quite rapidly, because the way we are seeing the entire situation evolve really puts a question mark on the political stability of France. So as we are talking about, the possible scenarios from here on, the situation remains, complicated, because there are three options, as you rightly mentioned. One is to elect a new Prime Minister. Second is to hold elections. And third is for Mr. Macron President Macron to put down his papers and resign. Now, the situation is also getting complicated because of two reasons. The fiscal deficit of France is highest in the Eurozone. So there are certainly some difficult measures that the government will have to take as far as, lessening that gap is concerned, narrowing that gap is concerned. And the last three prime ministers who tried to do it had to resign. Also the other option to call for elections will clearly, as far as the indicators are concerned, will result in a far-right government coming to power. That seems to be what's happening in France right now. The far right is mobilizing more and more support. The third option, as far as and the reason perhaps why the situation is also getting more complicated, is also because in 2027, after 2027, President Macron cannot go for elections. This is his last term. There are all the political parties are trying to enhance their own ideological, spread in France and win the next elections when they take place in 2027. So, politics is going on in full swing. It's just about 2 years to the presidential elections in France, in which Mr. Macron cannot go there, and he will not be contesting the elections. From Le Pen to other political spectrum parties are all trying to gain from these unstable times as far as French politics is concerned.
All right, Akshay, now this political crisis will also have a bearing on the budget process that happens next year. Having said that, there are also calls for French President Emmanuel Macron to resign. How is he positioned?
Well, that demand has been denied. The French president has refused either re-elections or resignation. The other option, the only option that is left is to select a new prime minister. But now, with all the stress that there has been as far as the presidential position is concerned, electing a new prime minister, especially from the left, is not going to be an easy option either, because they have also been questioning the policies, the economic policies of President Macron, especially the hard-earned pension reforms that have been implemented in France. The leftists are opposed to it. It also can rattle the right supporters of President Macron. So the situation does look quite complicated for the French president, because he has no easy options now. He can either resign, he can either call for new election. Calling for new election will mean his political opponents, the far right, coming to power, rallying from this situation. The third is to elect a new prime minister, but after 5 resignations of prime ministers within 2 years, that option is also quite difficult.
All right, Akshay, we leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details and helping us understand the current situation in France. That was our correspondent Akshay, spelling out more on the current situation in France. We'll keep you updated. But up next, you're watching DD India NewsHour. We're heading for a short break. But after the break, aimed at rejecting foreign interference and expressing support for President Nicolas Maduro, Venezuelans hold a march in Caracas advocating peace. All medium and heavy-duty trucks imported into the United States will face a 25% tariff rate starting November 1st. Mid-Autumn Festival brings youth closer to the fading folk traditions. Where? Stay with us for a quick glimpse.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India NewsHour. Let's continue getting you more international updates. Delegations from Israel and Hamas held their first day of indirect negotiations in Egypt on Monday on a US drafted peace plan. Discussions were set to resume on Tuesday afternoon. As per the reports, both parties have agreed on most of the first phase terms, which include the release of hostages and establishing a ceasefire. The Israelis are led by top negotiator Ron Dermer, while Khalil Al-Hayya leads the Hamas delegation. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said foreign policy advisor Ophir Fark would be present for Israel. The talks began after a meeting between Arab mediators and the Hamas delegation. US envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner were also expected to join the talks. Both Hamas and Israel have responded positively to Trump's proposal, but reaching an agreement on the details is set to be a huge task. The plan envisages the disarmament of Hamas, which the terrorist group is unlikely to accept. It also provides for the gradual withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, but Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed to redeploy troops deep inside the territory while securing the release of hostages. US President Donald Trump told reporters at the White House that he was pretty sure a peace deal was possible.
I have red lines. If certain things aren't met, we're not going to do it. But I think we're doing very well, and I think Hamas has been agreeing to things that are very important. I think we're going to have it soon. I think we're going to have a deal. It's a hard thing for me to say that when for years and years they've been trying to have a deal with Gaza. But, literally for centuries, okay, if you really think about it. But we're going to have a Gaza deal, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
October 7th marks the second anniversary of Hamas's deadly attacks on Israel, when around 1,200 people were killed and 250 were taken hostage. That day, Hamas's attacks sent a ripple effect throughout the world. It was the deadliest attack on the Jewish people in a single day since the Holocaust. It threw the world into chaos, and Israel's military response has changed the region's landscape. The repercussions have contributed to the ouster of a regime in Syria, attack in Qatar, and a setback to the nuclear program in Iran. The conflict has since caused a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. It also brought international attention and divided opinions on the nation's choosing sides. At the same time, Jewish communities will hold low-profile commemoration of the October 7th attacks as anti-Semitic attacks continue to rise worldwide. Israel also launched October 7th website on the massacre. The site, The Missing October 7th Files, presents original documents recovered by Israel's security forces since the start of the conflict. The Missing October 7th Files presents original documents recovered by Israel's security forces since the start of the conflict. Israelis on the streets hope for a deal to secure the release of the hostages. As there are 48 hostages still remaining in Gaza, 20 of them are alive.
It's like an open wound. The hostages, I really can't believe it's been almost 2 years. It's been 2 years that they are not at home. All of the country, it's like all of our heart is not complete until they are home. In everything that we are doing, they are all the time in our mind, and I really hope that this agreement will actually happen and will bring everybody home.
I think there will be a huge sense of relief. For me, I certainly was someone who I cried every single hostage release that we've had until now, and I think that this will finally be an end to a very dark chapter in our country's history.
Moving on, amid rising tensions with the Venezuelans, US President Donald Trump on Monday has called off efforts to reach a diplomatic agreement with Venezuela and told his special envoy, Richard Grenell, to stop all outreach. Earlier, Trump said that US forces hit another vessel allegedly carrying illegal drugs off the coast of Venezuela, adding that the US would also start looking at drug trafficking occurring on the land. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has repeatedly alleged that the US is hoping to drive him from power. At the same time, President Nicolas Maduro said on Monday that Venezuela foiled a false flag operation by what he called local terrorists to plant explosives at the US Embassy in Caracas and exacerbate a dispute between the two countries over drug trafficking. The statement came amid a strong US military deployment in the Caribbean focused on combating drug trafficking.
Es una operación típica de falsa bandera, pudiéramos llamar. Una operación típica de provocación para después armar el escándalo y utilizar el poder comunicacional a través de redes y medios para culpar al gobierno bolivariano y comenzar una escalada de enfrentamiento donde nadie va a preguntar cómo lo hizo, quién lo hizo, donde nadie va a escuchar a nadie, sino que se van a escuchar el repiqueteo de las ametralladoras y de los misiles. Así que era una acción de provocación.
Meanwhile, hundreds marched to the UN office on Monday in Caracas, demanding respect for Venezuela's sovereignty and peace. Political and social groups organized the march, which featured banners rejecting foreign interference and supporting Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. In response, the US assembled several warships in a naval buildup in the international waters near Venezuela, allegedly to combat drug trafficking. US President Donald Trump said that he had a productive phone call with Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, with both sides indicating plans for a reciprocal visit soon. Trump noted that their brief encounter at the UN General Assembly in New York had set a positive tone, and he expressed optimism about deepening business and trade ties.
Well, I had a great talk with the president of Brazil, who's a good man. I met him actually at the United Nations. So it was quite a day. That was a big day. But we met and we liked each other. And yeah, we had a great conversation. Yeah, we'll start doing business.
And are you considering traveling to Brazil for a COP?
At some point I would, and he's going to come here. We talked about that. If they have excess
Brazilian Vice President Geraldo Alckmin said on Monday that he hopes the good chemistry between Presidents Lula and Trump can diffuse rising trade tensions. Lula has personally urged Trump to scrap the crippling 40% tariff and other punitive measures on the Brazilian goods. The two leaders spoke for 30 minutes in what officials called a friendly call, agreeing to meet soon and even exchanging personal numbers, Alckmin added.
Mas foi muito boa a conversa, melhor até do que nós esperávamos, então estamos muito otimistas aí que a gente vai avançar. E o presidente Lula destacou a disposição do Brasil para o diálogo e para a negociação.
US President Donald Trump announced on Monday that all medium and heavy-duty trucks imported into the United States will face a 25% tariff rate starting from 1st November. Trump, in a social media post, said that all medium and heavy-duty trucks coming into the United States will be tariffed at the rate of 25% from 1st of November. This is a month-long delay from October 1st start date, he vowed in an earlier social media post unveiling the new duty. Trump last month had said that heavy truck imports would face new duties on 1st October on national security grounds, saying the new tariffs were to protect manufacturers from unfair outside competition. Larger vehicles include everything from delivery trucks, garbage trucks, public utility trucks, transit shuttle and school buses and tractor-trailer trucks, as well as semi-trucks and heavy-duty vocational vehicles. Under trade deals reached with Japan and the European Union earlier, the United States has agreed to 15% tariff on light-duty vehicles, but it is not clear if they will face that rate for larger vehicles. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney will meet US President Donald Trump in Washington on Tuesday. The talks between the leaders will focus on shared priorities for a new economic and security relationship. Canada has not yet reached a broad trade deal with the Trump administration, unlike other major US trading partners, including the European Union. So far, Trump has maintained tariff exemptions on all goods compliant with an existing pact, the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement agreed during Trump's first term. USMCA revision talks are scheduled for next year, and Carney has said that his team is focused on preserving a good deal for Canada, which also benefits the United States and Mexico. Madagascar President Andry Rajoelina named Army General Dioufrine Fortunac as the Prime Minister on Monday, a week after dissolving the government in response to ongoing protests over power and water shortages. Zafi Zambo replaced Prime Minister Christian Netze, who was dismissed as part of the president's move. The general was the director of the military cabinet in the Prime Minister's office until this appointment. Zafizambo's top priority would be to restore electricity and water supply. Earlier on Monday, protesters returned to the streets in the nation for a third week of anti-government demonstrations. Rajoelina fired his cabinet last week, but many demonstrators are now demanding him to resign himself. Inspired by similar Gen Z marches in Kenya and Nepal, the protests are largest wave of unrest in recent years. Rajoelina said in a speech on Friday that he was ready to listen to the protesters' grievances, but ignored calls for his resignation. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world now. Young people at the Zo Heritage Hub in Vietnam's Hanoi are reviving traditional Vietnamese culture through hands-on workshops. During the Mid-Autumn Festival, traditional cultural activities are being revived with the aim to reconnect youth with fading folk traditions. Organizers hope to bring heritage into everyday life, not just preserve it in museums. A moving exhibition opens today at Berlin's Old Tempelhof Airport to mark 2 years since its deadly attack on Israel's Nova Music Festival. Over 400 people were killed in the October 7, 2023 Hamas assault. The exhibition shows personal items, video clips and stories from survivors. The exhibition comes with a message, and that is, "We will dance again," a symbol of strength and never giving up. Nicole Kidman attended the Chanel Spring Summer 2026 show in Paris with her daughters Sunday Rose and Faith Margaret on Monday. They joined other A-listers like Margot Robbie, Penelope Cruz, Pedro Pascal, Gracie Abrams and Jeannie at the event, which marked the debut of new Chanel creative director Matthew Blazy's design reboot. Paris Fashion Week, featuring top brands, concludes on Tuesday, ending a month of shows across New York, London and Milan. You're watching DD India News. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, India's UN envoy calls women peacekeepers messengers of peace, highlights India's leadership on women, peace and security agenda. India's flagship marine safety drill held in Chennai, showcasing India's world-class oil spill preparedness. It's a white winterland in Kashmir. Tourists rejoice. Fresh, heavy snowfall in Gulmarg and Baramulla.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you. You read between the lines, cut the clutter and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on.
Welcome back. After the break, you're watching DD India News Hour. A quick relook at the top stories now. US Senate fails again to pass funding bill. White House warns mass layoff. Trump says happy to work with Democrats on healthcare if the shutdown ends. Macron's fifth prime minister quits hours after naming the cabinet. Opposition demands president's resignation or snap polls. Macron gives Le Cornu time till Wednesday for talks. First day of indirect talks between Israel and Hamas over Trump's 20-point plan end in Egypt. Next round on Tuesday, marking 2 years since Hamas attack. 6th edition of Global Fintech Fest to begin in Mumbai. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and UK Prime Minister Starmer to address on October 9th. The 6th edition of the Global Fintech Fest is all set to begin in Mumbai on Tuesday. Based on the theme Empowering Finance for a Better World Powered by AI, the 3-day event will bring together global leaders, policymakers, central bankers and innovators to explore the future of financial technology amidst the growing AI influence. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer will deliver the keynote addresses and engage with industry experts, policymakers and innovators on Thursday. The fest will also host a large-scale fintech expo with over 400 exhibitors alongside hackathons, investment pitches, fintech awards and networking sessions. India's permanent representative to the UN, Ambassador Parvathineni Harish, has described women peacekeepers as messengers of peace and outlined India's rich and pioneer contribution to the implementation of the WPS agenda. Speaking at the UNSC Open Debate on Women, Peace and Security, the envoy asserted that the future of peacekeeping operations must acknowledge the crucial role of women peacekeepers in conflict resolution. He said that women play a critical role in addressing gender-based violence, being the messengers of peace.
India's leadership in championing women peacekeepers is exemplified through the appointment of Dr. Kiran Bedi, the first woman officer of the Indian Police Service, as the first ever female police advisor and head of the United Nations Police Division in 2003. We believe that it is no longer a question of whether women can do peacekeeping, rather, it is whether peacekeeping can do without women. Most critically, they help address gender-based violence and ensure that peace processes reflect the needs and perspectives of all segments of society.
India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri interacted with a group of journalists from Bangladesh in New Delhi on Monday. The Indian Foreign Secretary highlighted the warm and historic India-Bangladesh ties. He emphasized that India has always approached the India-Bangladesh relationship in a positive and constructive manner with a people-centric orientation. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal said that India does not encourage cryptocurrencies that lack sovereign or asset backing. He announced that India will introduce a digital currency backed by an RBI guarantee aimed at simplifying transactions and traceable transactions compared to traditional banking. The minister is on an official visit to Doha, Qatar, to co-chair the meeting of the India-Qatar Joint Commission on Economic and Commercial Cooperation, along with his Qatari counterpart, His Excellency Sheikh Faisal bin Thani bin Faisal Al Thani.
We have not been encouraging cryptocurrency which does not have sovereign backing or which is not backed by assets, say from the federal bank or local currency. So India has also announced that we will be coming out with a digital currency which will be backed by Reserve Bank of India guarantee like currency. And our idea is that this will only make it easier to transact. It will also reduce the paper consumption and will be faster to transact than the banking system also. But it will also have traceability through blockchain. So only legal transactions can be done.
On the sidelines of the Joint Commission, the minister held a series of high-level business meetings with senior Qatari dignitaries and corporate leaders. Now, these interactions provided an opportunity to discuss avenues for greater investment flows, technology partnerships and joint ventures between Indian and Qatari enterprises. During his first visit to Qatar, Piyush Goyal addressed the vibrant Indian community, appreciating their role as a strong pillar of India-Qatar relations. Qatar ranks among India's key trading partners within the Gulf Cooperation Council, with bilateral trade totaling over $14.15 billion in 2024-25. Reaffirming India's commitment to inclusivity, innovation and global cooperation, he urged the Indian diaspora to continue serving as an important bridge between the two nations and as key partners in realizing India's growth vision.
Together, Qatar and India will power the development of all of humanity. And that is the strength that you bring to the table. And I am very confident that the sincerity with which you contribute to Qatar's economy, the hard work that you put in, the assimilation of Indian people with the local community is your biggest strength. Together, when all of you represent India, you are the living bridge between Qatar and India.
In a bid to prepare for tackling marine oil spill emergencies, India's premier biannual pollution response exercise, NatPol Rex X, was organized by the Indian Coast Guard on 5th and 6th of October. The large-scale exercise witnessed enthusiastic participation from a wide spectrum of stakeholders, including 40 foreign observers from 32 countries, representatives from central ministries, coastal state governments, major ports, oil handling agencies and maritime organizations. The technical sessions of the exercise featured insightful presentations on the topics of current relevance, including nodal spills and their environmental impact, case studies on hazardous and noxious substances, post-spill monitoring and environmental impact assessments, and shoreline cleanup, among others. The Indian Air Force will celebrate its 93rd Air Force Day on October 8th. As part of the celebrations, a special promo video is released on the incredible journey of the Indian Air Force. Let's take a look.
This is a battlefield of speed, power, and resolve. Here, every sortie shapes history, every mission forges legends. From the icy peaks of the Himalayas to the vast oceans below, a vigilant force commands the air, swift, silent, and relentless. It shields a billion dreams, carrying with it the strength of a nation. For those who dare challenge its domain, the answer is certain. This is the Indian Air Force. Infallible, impervious, precise, achuk, abhedya, va sateek.
And now we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India. In Chhattisgarh, at least 3 workers, including 2 women, were injured after an explosion at an open cast coal mine of Southeastern Coalfields Limited was reported. The incident took place at Chirmiri Open Cast Coal Mine when workers were preparing to carry out blasting, laying explosives on the coal bed at a site. As per preliminary information, after laying the explosives, the blasting gang, comprising of 7 to 8 workers, were returning to a safer place for detonation when the explosion suddenly occurred at the site. Valmiki Jayanti is being celebrated today to honor the sage Valmiki, the author of the ancient Indian epic, the Ramayana. The day is commemorated with a lot of respect across India, as this day brings and marks the birth of the sage, who is often regarded as the first poet or Adi Kavi in Sanskrit language. Sage Valmiki's work not only highlights the epic story of Lord Rama, but also imparts lessons about life, duty and justice. An early spell of snowfall in Kashmir's valley's upper reaches, including tourist places, on Monday sparked a cheer among the tourists. Scores of tourists were seen enjoying at Gulmarg's Meadow, Kongduri in North Kashmir after the season's first snowfall. Kongduri was covered with a layer of snow in the past 24 hours. Authorities have instructed drivers to carry appropriate safety equipment, including snow skid chains. The Grand Divine Reunion at the International Kullu Dussehra Festival refers to the annual congregation of over 300 local deities who gather at the Dhalpur ground to pay homage to the chief presiding deity, Lord Raghunath. The unique celebration is unlike Dussehra elsewhere in India, as it begins on Vijay Dashmi and focuses on the assembly of gods rather than on burning of Ravan's effigy. The week-long celebrations are no less than a spectacle of cultural divine. Let's get to global updates. We first get you updates from India. The Indian Met Department has forecast continued rainfall with yellow alert across several parts of the country for the next 2 to 3 days. The Met Department also issued yellow alert for Delhi following the overnight rainfall. The city is expected to experience a generally cloudy sky with several spells of light to moderate rains at many places. It also said that temperatures in northwest India may drop by 4 to 5 degrees Celsius over the next 2 days, starting October 8th, as thunderstorms accompanied by rain are likely in Chhattisgarh, Bihar and Jharkhand over the next 2 to 3 days. Due to the impact of the western disturbance, rain has resumed again in Rajasthan. IMD has said that rainfall will decrease in Jodhpur and Bikaner on October 7th. Also, according to the Met Department, heavy rain is likely at isolated places in Arunachal Pradesh on October 9th and 10th, while Assam, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram and Tripura are likely to experience heavy rains for the next 5 days. Floods in Nepal have taken the death toll to 52, with 9 missing and 29 injured. The Nepalese army has rescued 12 individuals stranded due to incessant rainfall, while the search for 4 missing from the Gozai Kund municipality is ongoing at the dam site. An indefinite ban has been imposed on nighttime vehicle movement along all short route connecting Hitoda and Kathmandu. The short route remains at high risk of the landslides. Despite the Bagmati province government's efforts to upgrade the short route, the landslide risk persists. Meanwhile, roads have completely been blocked at 19 locations across Koshi and Bagmati provinces. As in Koshi province, several sections of the Koshi Highway, Siddhicharan Highway, Mid Hill Highway and Mechi Highway have been obstructed by landslides. In northern Egypt, flooding from rising Nile waters has submerged homes and farmlands, forcing people to evacuate by boat. It had escalated tensions between Cairo and Addis Ababa over the claims that Ethiopia's massive Nile dam may be contributing to the seasonal floods. In the northwest of Cairo, residents used boats to navigate flooded streets as water reached their homes. Health teams were deployed to flooded areas over the weekend. Egypt's irrigation ministry accused Ethiopia of irresponsibly managing its Nile dam, alleging that unexpected water releases following the dam's September 9th inauguration led to a man-made delayed flood. Meanwhile, Ethiopia rejected Cairo's claims. It defends its newly inaugurated Nile dam as a regional benefit. You're watching Lead India NewsHour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, OpenAI collaborates with toy maker Metal to test its new video model, Sora 2. Group toppers England to face third place Bangladesh in the Women's World Cup face-off today. Honoring a legacy of discovery that unveils the universe, we will tell you about the 2025 Nobel Prize in Physics.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy, always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Hello. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India NewsHour. Let's get you updates from the world of business now. OpenAI has joined hands with toy maker Mattel to test its new video model, Sora 2. At OpenAI's Developer Day, CEO Sam Altman said that Mattel designers can now turn sketches into shareable videos using AI. OpenAI also launched GPT-5 Pro and a smaller voice model for developers. Calling it a big loop towards reality, Sam Altman made the announcement for a smaller voice model in the API.
We're also releasing a smaller voice model in the API with GPT Real-Time Mini. It is smaller, 70% cheaper version of the advanced voice model we shipped 2 months ago with the same voice quality and expressiveness. Personally, I think that voice is going to become one of the primary ways that people interact with AI. And this is a big leap towards that reality.
Now, these tools aim to make creating and sharing ideas faster and easier. While Altman's plans are big and bold, some tech investors worry about the growing cost of AI. Still, OpenAI continues to push forward with new features and partnerships. Stock markets in the US jumped on Monday with the S&P 500 and Nasdaq closing at record highs. The boost came after chipmaker AMD announced a big AI deal with OpenAI, which could bring in billions. AMD's stock soared, lifting their tech shares too. Meanwhile, the US government's shutdown continued for a 6th day, delaying key economic reports. Investors now rely on other data to guess if interest rates will be cut soon. The Dow Jones fell lightly, but all eyes are on next week's earnings from major banks, which could shake up the market again. On to sports now. We talk of cricket first. England will face Bangladesh in the ongoing Women's World Cup in northeast India's Guwahati today. Bangladesh women are currently placed at the 3rd position on the points table with 1 win to their credit, while England women are placed at the 1st position on the points table with 1 win to their credit. Despite qualifying for back-to-back one-day international matches, that is World Cups in 2022 and now in 2025, Bangladesh have faced England only once in the format, and that too in the previous edition. World Championship medalists Lakshya Sen and Kidambi Srikanth will spearhead India's campaign at the Arctic Open Badminton Tournament, which begins in Finland on Tuesday. Sen reached his first final of the 2025 season at the Hong Kong Open last month, but failed to carry the momentum into the China Masters. Joining Sen in the men's singles draw are 5 other Indian players, including Kidambi Srikanth, who rediscovered some form with a semi-final appearance at the AI Iron Masters last week. Asian Games men's doubles champions Satvik Sairaj Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty have withdrawn from the tournament. In the women's singles, rising stars Tanya Hemant and Anmol Karb will lead India's charge in the absence of 2-time Olympic medalist PV Sindhu. Tanisha Crasto will pair with Dhruv Kapila to headline India's mixed doubles campaign. The pairing for the upcoming FIDE World Cup were unveiled on Monday, with Vidit Gujarati facing the possibility of locking horns with Argentinian chess prodigy Faustino Oro in the 2nd round. Another key matchup in the 2nd round would be that of GM Divya Deshmukh, who possibly faces fellow Indian GM Nehal Sareen. D. Gukesh meanwhile enters the 206-player tournament as the top seed as the reigning classical world champion, despite a handful of players currently being ahead of him on the FIDE ratings. Gukesh and other players in the top 50, including fellow Indian stars Arjun Ergaizi and R. Pragananda, have been given a 1st-round bye and will be in action from the 2nd round. Also going by the draw, the tournament could witness a semi-final showdown and also between Arjun and Prag, with the winner then going on to face Gukesh in the final. That, however, will only happen if all the 3 players go the distance in Goa. Changing track from sports, let's get to other updates. The Nobel Prize in Physics is awarded by the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences, Stockholm, Sweden. Physics was the prize area which Alfred Nobel mentioned first in his will from 1895. At the end of the 19th century, many people considered physics as the foremost of the sciences, and perhaps Nobel saw it this way as well. His own research was also closely tied to physics. Here's the report.
Every year, the world turns its eyes to Stockholm, where the greatest minds of science are honored for discoveries that redefine our understanding of the universe. The 2025 Nobel Prize in Physics has once again brought the frontier of human knowledge into the spotlight. This remarkable journey began with Alfred Nobel's will in 1895, in which he directed that his fortune be used to give the highest recognition to achievements in knowledge and discovery. The Physics Nobel Prize was one of the first categories mentioned in his testament, reflecting its foundational importance in science. The prize is awarded every year by the Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences. Since 1901, it has been presented 118 times to 227 laureates, with John Bardeen being the only individual to receive it twice. The award recognizes discoveries that have made the greatest contribution to humanity. The very first Physics Nobel in 1901 was awarded to Wilhelm Röntgen for his discovery of X-rays. From Röntgen to Einstein, who was recognized in 1921 for the law of photoelectric effect, each laureate has brought humanity one step closer to understanding the universe. The uniqueness of physics lies in its power to connect the tiniest particles to the grandest galaxies. Physics is not merely a game of numbers. It is the language through which we decipher the cosmos. Each discovery deepens our understanding of the building blocks of matter, energy and space-time. Over the decades, the prize has celebrated both the invisible and the immense. Quantum mechanics, nuclear structure, the Big Bang, lasers, semiconductors, and even the elusive whispers of gravitational waves. These are not merely equations. They are discoveries that have reshaped science, transformed our lives, influenced our thinking, and inspired our dreams of tomorrow.
All right, with that, we end this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.